All right, today I am upgrading my bench vise. I bought this vise probably 20 some years ago and it has served me pretty well. When I bought it, I knew it wasn't that great of a vise. I didn't expect it to last 20 years, but it was affordable and it got me in the game, and sometimes getting in the game is more important than buying the best tool. With that said, it has not been without problems. I've had all kinds of issues with things stripping out on it and broken handles and it binding up on me, but I made it work. But today that frustration ends because I'm upgrading it, and the vise that I went with is Andy Kleins Twin Turbo vise. So let's get it out of the box and get it assembled. All right, so I think I'm going to take a cue from Adam Savage and knoll this out on the bench to spread out all the parts to see what we got here. All right, so before I laid all this out, I should have read the instructions first, because the first thing we need to do is make a chop for the vise. But I got a little excited, so hopefully this won't get too covered in sawdust while I make this. So to make the vise chop, I'm going to use this piece of cottonwood. It's maybe a little bit soft for a vise chop, but I think it'll be fine. I have this left over from a project that I just need to use it up to get it out of the way. All right, so I got my parts milled up. I had two of these cottonwood pieces, but one of them was super warped, so I lost too much thickness trying to square it up. So I'm going with a wormy maple, so I think that's gonna look pretty good between the two. So let's get some holes drilled to get this thing laid out. All right, so the instructions say to use a 3/4 inch drill bit to mark the holes. So none of the drill bits I have are long enough, so what I'm gonna do is drop that guy down in there, so that way I can find center. Give it a whack. And then I'll just use this magnet to pull it back out and do the other hole. All right, so since I want this to look as awesome as possible, I'm going to double stick down this frame here. That way I can pattern route the inside so it'll be a perfect match. All right, so to relieve some of this material, so it's not so much to route out, I'm just going to cut it close at the bandsaw. Of course, my head is getting cut off. All right, so I ordered Andy's bench dogs because I was going to inlay them into the top of my bench. But now that I have this in my hand and getting a good look at how it works, I'm realizing that that's not going to work because my bench is a torsion box top. So if I drill a big hole for this to go into, there's nothing, since it's hollow, there's nothing to hold this up, and it'll just fall inside the bench and be lost forever because there's a top and a bottom and it's hollow in the middle. So I think I'm going to incorporate them into the vise because I have a series of dog holes laid out here already, and the vise comes with some long dogs to go on either end, in this space and this space here, go in here like this on the ends. So I left this piece a little extra thick so I can hopefully position these guys properly. I'm gonna do a little math so that way I miss all the metal hardware components. And then I will set them up to be in line with the dogs that I already have. I'll set them up in line with the dog holes that I already have laid out here, and then I'll just use the plastic dogs for this side, and then I'll have the nice dogs on this side. And eventually I hope to move this whole thing over to a Rubo style bench in the future, but that's a future project, but I want to get this installed on this bench so I can use it now. So I think I'm going to start to figure out how to set these dogs up into here. Let me make sure that all of that misses our install holes here. It looks like it does, so I think we're good. All right, I got my dado stack set up. I have a line marked on the fence where I want to stop, so once I get through, so that'll be a stop dado. And since this is kind of a potential for kickback type of cut, I'm going to use my miter gauge for safety and stop the saw each time I get to my line before I pull the workpiece out. All right, and the reason why I'm cutting dados in the chop is because Andy's bench dogs have that really long pole and that need to pass all the way through the chop. I don't have a drill bit that's long enough to drill all the way through there, so I'm cutting dados through the bottom half, and then I will drill through the top half and hope that they all meet together in the middle. So before I drill the rest of these holes, I think I'm going to glue this guy on here first. That way I know that everything 100% lines up the way it's supposed to. All right, the drill press didn't have enough throw to get deep enough in the hole, so I'm going to use a hand drill. A lot of problem solving today. That's why makers should run the world. Took a swipe across the joiner to clean up that face. Eventually I'll probably have to level it off with the top of the workbench, but we'll worry about that once we get it all installed. It goes in there like that, and then this guy goes in there. Want to use it, just pops up from below, swivels to fit any angle. I think I'm in business there. All right, now the long ones, easily to pop up from the bottom, and these come with a vise, I believe. And then these guys I ordered for the bench. They're not quite long enough to be able to push up from the bottom. So I think since they're hollow, I'll just glue a wooden dowel inside there and let it stick out just enough so I could push up on it to get a hold of it. And that'll solve that problem. All right, so here I'm just using a rabbiting bit at the router table to cut a rabbet for the plexiglass face to fit into. All right, let's see if our acrylic fits here. There we go. I think that's gonna work. My head is cut off. Of course my head is cut off. All right, I love the fact that Andy designed this so you can see the gears through the plexiglass. And these gears are just really beautifully done and very well machined. So I feel like I need to add some personalization to it to kind of like mark my territory that this is my vise. So I think I'm gonna try to add a little bit of patina decoration to these gears. All right, so it appears that most of the internal metal workings of the vise have been electroplated with probably nickel or something along those lines. And so I'm just using some acid to etch that off. All right, so now I am brushing on my copper solution, and I'm doing it in an uneven pattern. So I'm putting it on a little heavy in some places and a little lighter in other places, and I'm just kind of experimenting and feeling it out how I go, because I don't want to totally copper plate my gears. I want it to have that steampunk vibe. So I want some places for the copper to be really bright and intact, and then other places for it to be dull, and then some places where I want the raw metal to bleed through. So I'm just kind of just feeling it out here as I go to see what happens and what I like and what I don't like. And if I totally don't like it, I can always just buff this off and start over again from bare metal. And then for the back plate, I did the same thing. Got a pretty good steampunk vibe going on there. All right, the last thing you do is get some exercise with a hand plane and flush this thing up with the top of the bench. When I first opened the box, I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these parts. What have I done? What have I gotten myself into? But with the instructions that Andy provides, along with the YouTube videos that he has on his channel on how to assemble this vise, it was actually pretty straightforward and not a big deal at all. So I'll put some links in the description if you are interested in which vise I got. And yeah, I'll leave you guys here. Thanks for watching.